£1,206 of pure spare cash is sitting in the bank accounts of people living in a town where nobody works. Not a welfare scam. Not a trust fund paradise. A real, historic UK town where the cost of living is so heavily suppressed that regular households have double the disposable income of a London corporate lawyer. But nobody is talking about the massive structural traps hiding behind these picture-perfect streets. One coastal sanctuary is experiencing a 7.8% explosion in pure wealth, but the local transit network is so ruined you are effectively trapped. Another northern anomaly lets you buy a mansion for pocket change, but the local social scene treats outsiders like ghosts. From a Roman-walled city with zero parking to an affluent tech belt haven where the flight paths will rattle your windows, moving here blindly will ruin your finances. Most people will drain their savings in high-cost cities because they don't know these geographic loops exist. Hit subscribe right now, because choosing the wrong town could cost you 10 years of savings. Let's break it down. Number 1. St. Ives, Cornwall. You can buy a harborside view that looks like a postcard and still have enough left over for a lifetime supply of overpriced scones. Yes, really. No, it's not a scam. St. Ives is a crown jewel of the Cornish coast. With a population that hovers around 11,000, it feels less like a town and more like a fevered dream of turquoise water and winding, narrow streets. It's famous for its world-class art scene and beaches that make you wonder why anyone bothers going to the Mediterranean. On the surface, it's idyllic, quaint, and the kind of place that turns every weekend into a vacation. Let's break it down. Median home prices sit around £520,000. That's more than some people earn in a decade. Rent hovers near £1,500 for a place that might be smaller than your childhood bedroom. Cost of living is 15% above the national average, which is great if you're a millionaire but hurts if you're, well, anyone else. But here's what nobody tells you. The town effectively dies in February, becomes a tourist mosh pit in August, and the local workforce is being priced out of their own backyards. As one local posted, St. Ives is a theme park with no rides. Once the visitors leave, you realize you're living in a very expensive, very quiet ghost town. Picture this. It's a crisp autumn evening. You smell salt spray and roasting coffee. You walk down to the harbor. The view is absolute perfection, and you hear nothing. Just silence. It's peaceful. Until you realize the local shopkeeper you wanted to chat with has already left because they can't afford the rent. Welcome to the paradox of paradise. And don't even get me started on the parking. Trying to drive a car through these streets is like playing Tetris with a tank. I swear, the roads were designed by a drunk donkey. If you think St. Ives is a beautiful nightmare, wait till you see the next town, where the housing is cheaper but the isolation will make you start talking to your houseplants. Number 2. The Cotswolds. This is the kind of town where you can stumble upon a 400-year-old cottage and a hidden resentment from the locals on the same block. You can live like a literal royal in the heart of England. Yes, really. No, it's not a film set. The Cotswolds, specifically those postcard-perfect villages like Castlecombe, are tucked deep in the Gloucestershire hills. The population is small, stable, and let's be honest, probably wealthier than you and your entire extended family combined. It's known for honey-colored limestone, rolling hills, and a vibe that feels like stepping back into a Jane Austen novel, provided you have the bank account to match. Here's what you're working with. Median home prices are sitting at £650,000, and that's for a fixer-upper. Rent is easily £2,000 a month. The cost of living? Let's just say your dollar, or pound, doesn't go far here. Translation, you're paying for the aesthetic. But here's what nobody tells you. The polite grudge is real. If you're not established, you're an outsider. The Wi-Fi is also shockingly bad, and if you drive anything wider than a bicycle, you're basically a public enemy on the narrow country lanes. As one Redditor put it, everyone is perfectly polite to your face, but they are definitely judging your choice of car behind your back at the village fete. So, what's the emotional cost? You get the most stunning scenery in the UK, but you might spend your nights wondering if you'll ever actually be invited to a local's dinner party. It's the ultimate trade-off, pure beauty for a slice of social isolation. And don't even get me started on the roads. I swear, they were laid out in the 1600s for horse-drawn carts, not your massive SUV. Trying to navigate a tractor while local in a Range Rover stares at you with pure, unadulterated hatred is a daily hobby here. Picture this. It's a crisp, foggy morning. You step out onto the cobblestones. The air smells like damp limestone and expensive wood smoke. You hear absolutely nothing. It's eerily quiet until you hear the faint sound of a neighbor sign because you parked 3 inches over the line. Subscribe because when the 9 to 5 burnout hits, you'll want to know exactly where to point the moving van. Future-proof your sanity. Number 3. Whitby, North Yorkshire. You can live in a literal gothic horror novel and eat the best fish and chips in the country for less than the price of a fancy London lunch. Yes, really. No, it's not a film set for a vampire movie, though it definitely looks like one. Whitby sits perched on the edge of the North Sea, famous for the jagged ruins of Whitby Abbey looming over the town. With a population of about 13,000, it feels moody, historic, and slightly trapped in time. It's known for its maritime history, Captain Cook, and a local aesthetic that says, I might be a pirate or Victorian ghost. On the surface, it's charming and rugged, but it's a long way from the big city. Let's break it down. Median home prices hover around £240,000. To put that in perspective, you'd be lucky to buy a garden shed in a trendy London suburb for that. Rent is around £900, and the cost of living is noticeably below the national average. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's what nobody tells you. The median age is older than a museum exhibit. The winters are brutal enough to strip paint off your walls, and if you aren't fond of seafood, you're going to have a bad time. As one local posted, I move here for the scenery and stay because I've forgotten how to hold a conversation with anyone under 70 who isn't a tourist. So, what's the real trade-off? You get fresh sea air and a house you can actually afford, but you also get a social life that shuts down promptly at 8 p.m. You'll save thousands on rent, but you might spend your Tuesday nights watching the waves crash against a pier wondering if the town is sinking. And don't even get me started on the seagulls. These aren't birds. They are feathered, aggressive, organized crime bosses with wings. I watched one steal an entire battered cutout of a tourist's hand like it was a tactical military operation. You haven't known true fear until a gull the size of a golden retriever stays you down for your leftovers. Picture this. It's a stormy Tuesday at midnight. The fog is rolling over the harbor, the streetlights are flickering, and the only sound you hear is a mournful foghorn and a seagull plotting your demise. It's atmospheric, it's beautiful, and it's a little bit lonely. Unlike the peaceful gloom of Whitby, the next town on our list is a place that's basically a high-speed, chaotic roller coaster that refuses to slow down. Number 4. Todmorden. You can live in a town where the locals grow food on every street corner, and the rent is so low you'll check your bank app twice just to make sure you didn't miss a zero. Yes, really. No, it's not a commune. It's just northern grit with a green thumb. Todmorden sits deep in the Calder Valley, squeezed between massive, looming hills that make you feel like you're in a real-life Lord of the Rings setting. With a population of about 15,000, it's the definition of hidden gem. It's known for the incredible edible movement, a project where everyone grows veggies in public spaces. It's got an industrial meets bohemian vibe that feels like a group of artists accidentally moved into an old mill town and decided to stay forever. Here's what you're working with. Median home prices are sitting right around £190,000. That's essentially the price of a mid-range SUV in some parts of the UK. Rent is easily under £750 a month. The cost of living is delightfully low, meaning your paycheck actually survives a month. Translation: you aren't just surviving, you're actually buying the good cheese at the grocery store. But here's what nobody tells you. The geography is basically a vertical maze. If you hate walking uphill, you're in the wrong place. The weather? It's a professional-grade dampness that stays with you. And as one local Redditor brutally put it, Todd is great, but don't expect to find a reliable 4G signal in the valley bottom. You're trading high-speed internet for high-speed vegetable harvesting. So, what's the real trade-off? You get a community that actually cares about each other, but you might spend your rainy Tuesday mornings frustrated because your Netflix stream keeps buffering during the best part of the episode. You're trading the digital life for the literal earth. And don't even get me started on the hills. I swear, the town was built by people who hated gravity. I once tried to walk to the post office, and I think I burned more calories than a marathon runner. By the time I reached the top, I had to be medevaced back to my living room. Picture this. It's an overcast Sunday morning. The valley is filled with that classic moody Yorkshire mist. You smell damp earth and fresh kale. You hear the distant chime of a church bell, and you feel strangely productive. You walk past a public strawberry patch. Someone waves, and for a second, you forget that your phone has 0 bars. If you think Todmorden is a quiet, leafy dream, wait until you see the next town. It's essentially a Mediterranean fantasy village that somehow got lost in the rainy mountains of Wales. Number 5. Portmeirion. You can live in an Italian-style village that looks like it was ripped straight out of a Mediterranean fever dream and dropped into the Welsh coast. Yes, really. No, it's not a film set. Well, it is, but people actually live here. Portmeirion is a bizarre, vibrant, and utterly surreal village in Gwynedd, North Wales. It's not your typical town. It's a private-owned, purpose-built destination that feels like a brightly colored architectural acid trip. With a small permanent residential base, it's known for its ornate terracotta roofs, subtropical gardens, and an atmosphere that makes you feel like you're on permanent vacation in 1960s Italy. Let's break it down. Property here is basically a collector's item, with prices often hitting the £450,000 mark for even the modest cottages. Rent? Don't ask, unless you're prepared to pay a premium for the privilege of living in a postcard. The cost of living is high because, frankly, everything has to be imported into this little bubble. But here's what nobody tells you. You're living in a town that operates like a luxury hotel. You have strict rules, tourists wandering past your front door from sunrise to sunset, and the isolation of the Welsh coast means you're a long drive from a proper supermarket. As one local put it, it's paradise until you need a pint of milk at 9 p.m. and realize you have to drive 30 minutes just to find a shop that isn't a gift store. So, what's the real trade-off? You get to wake up to views that belong in a travel magazine, but you trade away your privacy and the convenience of modern suburban life. You'll save your sanity from a corporate grind, but you might spend your days feeling like an exhibit in an open-air museum. And don't even get me started on the tourists. I swear, you can't walk to your mailbox without 5 people asking you if you're a local actor or if you're part of the village show. It's like living inside a snow globe that someone is constantly shaking. Picture this. It's a warm, humid evening. The sun is setting over the DWRYD estuary. The air smells like blooming azaleas and salty sea air, and the Italianate architecture glows in the fading light. It's quiet, it's stunning, and it's completely surreal, right up until a tour bus rolls in and the spell breaks. If you thought Portmeirion's surreal aesthetic was intense, the next town on our list is a place that feels like it was built entirely out of pure, unfiltered eccentricity. Number 6. Hebden Bridge. You can live in a town where the local art scene is more intense than a Soho gallery opening, yet the rent hasn't completely destroyed your soul. Yes? Really? No, it's not just a hipster haven, though the beard-to-resident ratio is statistically suspicious. Hebden Bridge sits in the heart of the South Pennines, nestled into the valley just a stone's throw from our friend Todmorden. With a population around 4,500, this place is the UK's unofficial capital of independent living. It's famous for having almost no chain stores, a legendary arts festival, and a vibe that says, I bake my own sourdough and I have strong opinions about independent cinema. Here's what you're working with. Median home prices are floating around £280,000. It's pricier than its neighbours, but compared to the south, it's a bargain. Rent is around £950 for a decent flat. The cost of living is fair, provided you don't spend your entire paycheck at the local artisan candle shop. But here's what nobody tells you. The flood risk is a constant, looming roommate. The river likes to remind you who's boss every few years. The town is also notoriously cliquey if you aren't into the artsy scene. As one Reddit user put it, moving here means you either become a full-time potter or you get bored of the kale smoothie and poetry reading circuit pretty damn fast. So, what's the real trade-off? You get a community that's incredibly vibrant and politically engaged, but you might spend your autumns watching the river level with a mounting sense of dread. You're trading chain store convenience for a life that feels authentic, even if it's occasionally soggy. And don't even get me started on the coffee shops. There are more independent cafes here than there are people, and I swear each one has a menu that requires a degree in linguistics just to order flat white. Do I want an oat milk turmeric-infused beans of destiny blend? No, I want a normal cup of coffee. Please, picture this. It's a rainy Tuesday, but the town is buzzing. You're huddled in a cozy cafe. The air smells like roasted beans and wet wool, and there's a folk band practicing in the corner. You look out at the mist-covered hills, and for a second, you feel like you've actually arrived in a place that has a heartbeat. If you think Hebden Bridge's artistic intensity is a lot to handle, wait until you see the next town. It's a place where the history is so heavy you can practically feel it in your bones. Number 7. Ludlow. You can live in a town that has more listed buildings and you have brain cells after a Friday night out, and the food scene is so good it puts actual cities to shame. Yes, really. No, it's not just for people with a trust fund. Ludlow sits in Shropshire, right near the Welsh border, and it's basically a massive, open-air museum that people actually live in. With a population of about 10,000, it's famous for its medieval castle and a foodie obsession that has turned the town into a destination for anyone who treats a cheese board like a religious experience. It's got a sophisticated, slightly aristocratic vibe that feels like it's been marinating in history for the last 900 years. Let's break it down. Median home prices are sitting around £300,000. Rent averages about £850 for a nice apartment. The cost of living? It's surprisingly moderate, but your bank account will take a hit because you will end up spending all your extra cash at the local deli. Translation: you're trading your saving for the best sausage roll of your entire life. But here's what nobody tells you. It's quiet. Like, the town clock is the loudest thing you'll hear all day quiet. And if you aren't into gastronomy, you're basically a vegetarian at a steakhouse. As one local put it, Ludlow is wonderful, but if you don't like talking about locally sourced, heritage breed pork, you might as well be speaking a different language. So, what's the real trade-off? You get a beautiful, safe, and delicious life, but you might spend your evening feeling like the town is a little too tucked away from the rest of the world. It's slow living, redefined. And don't even get me started on the hill to the town center. It's called the Cove, and I'm convinced it was built specifically to destroy the spirit of anyone who forgets to buy bread. Walking up that thing with a bag of groceries will turn you into an Olympic athlete whether you want to or not. Picture this. It's a Saturday morning. The market square is packed with stalls selling local pies. The air smells like fresh-baked sourdough and roasting coffee. You hear the chime of the castle clock. You feel that crisp Shropshire air, and you realize you finally slowed down. If you think Ludlow's historic charm is fancy, the next place is so remote, it feels like the edge of the map. Number 8. Tobermory. You can live in a town where the houses look like a box of spilled Skittles, and the neighbors are more likely to be puffins than corporate lawyers. Yes, really. No, it's not a film set for a kid show, though it absolutely looks like one. Tobermory is the main hub of the Isle of Mull in the Scottish Inner Hebrides. With a population of about 1,000, it's tiny, isolated, and impossibly photogenic. It's known for its brightly painted harborfront buildings, world-class whiskey, and a pace of life that makes slow living feel like a high-speed chase. On the surface, it's a colorful, maritime paradise, but there's an entire ocean between you and the mainland. Here's what you're working with. Median home prices hover around £220,000, which sounds like a steal until you factor in the cost of shipping everything, and I mean everything, over by ferry. Rent is scarce, and the cost of living is high because island life isn't cheap. Translation: your dollar goes far on the property, but your wallet cries every time you buy a bag of groceries. But here's what nobody tells you. You are at the mercy of the weather and the ferry schedule. If the wind blows too hard, your mail and your Amazon order isn't coming. As one islander put it, Tobermory is a beautiful place to find yourself, but you have to be okay with being completely, utterly, and sometimes frustratingly unreachable. So, what's the real trade-off? You get pristine nature and a tight-knit community, but you might spend your winter evenings wondering if the grocery store will actually have milk this week. You're trading connectivity for a view that makes your Instagram followers weep with jealousy. And don't even get me started on the weather. I swear, it's not rain. It's a vertical ocean that just happens to be falling on your head. I once bought an all-weather jacket here, and by lunch, it had surrendered. The Scottish rain doesn't just get you wet. It gets into your soul and demands to know why you thought living on a rock in the North Atlantic was a good idea. Picture this. It's a late summer evening. The sun is setting over the harbor. The water is glassy, and the smell of peat smoke and brine fills the air. You hear the soft clatter of boat masts against the pier and the distant sound of someone playing a fiddle. It's magical, until you realize you have to figure out how to get to the dentist on the mainland. If you thought Tobermory was isolated, wait until you see our next stop, where the entire town is basically one giant, perfectly preserved time capsule. Number 9. Saltaire. You can live in a literal Victorian utopia where the houses are built like cathedrals and the entire village is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Yes, really. No, it's not a theme park. People actually pay taxes and do laundry here. Saltaire was built by Sir Titus Salt, a guy who decided that if he was going to build a giant textile mill, he might as well build a decent town for his workers, too. With a population of about 6,000, it's a perfectly preserved grid of Italianate stone houses nestled along the Leeds-Liverpool Canal. It's known for the massive salts mill, now a massive gallery and bookstore, and a vibe that feels like you stepped into a 19th century postcard that had a caffeine injection. Here's what you're working with. Median home prices hover around £230,000. That's shockingly affordable for a place that looks like a movie set. Rent is roughly £800 to £950 for a stunning, high-ceilinged stone terrace. The cost of living is sensible, provided you don't spend your entire life browsing the artisan shops in the mill. Translation: you get to live in a monument for the price of a showbox in the city. But here's what nobody tells you. Because it's a heritage site, you can't even change your window frames without filling out a mountain of paperwork. And the tourists? They'll be peering into your living room window all weekend because they think your house is a museum exhibit. As one resident put it, it's beautiful, but sometimes I feel like I'm living inside a historical reenactment. I just want to put up a curtain without asking the United Nations for permission. So, what's the real trade-off? You get incredible architecture and a village that refuses to age, but you trade away your home improvement freedom. You'll save on the mortgage, but you might spend your Saturday afternoons explaining to a group of tourists that, no, you don't sell tickets to see your kitchen. And don't even get me started on the parking. I swear, they didn't account for cars back in 1853. Trying to find a spot on these narrow, cobbled streets is like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, if the hole was built by a Victorian industrialist with a grudge against automobiles. Picture this. It's a quiet Wednesday morning. The canal water is perfectly still, reflecting the golden stone of the terraces. You smell fresh rain on the cobbles and coffee from the nearby shop. You hear the distant sound of a narrowboat engine humming along the canal. It's peaceful, majestic, and so historically dense you can almost feel the top hats watching you. If you thought Saltaire's history was impressive, the final place on our list is a town that's so small and so dramatic, it's essentially the main character of every show you've ever watched. Number 10. Port Isaac. You can live in a town that's so impossibly picturesque, Hollywood has spent the last 2 decades pretending it's a fictional place called Portwen. Yes, really. No, it's not a film set. Well, it is, but the locals are very much real and very much tied to your selfie stick. Port Isaac is a tiny, ancient fishing village on the rugged north coast of Cornwall. With a population that barely grazes 700, it feels more like a movie set than a living town. It's famous for its narrow, winding drangs, the tiniest alleyways you've ever seen, and the fact that you can't turn a corner without stumbling into a location from a TV show. On the surface, it's the ultimate coastal retreat. In reality, it's a place where gravity and tourism fight for dominance. Here's what you're working with. Median home prices are astronomical, often hitting £600,000 for a fisherman's cottage that's basically a glorified stone box. Rent is non-existent unless you're okay with living in a closet during the off-season. Translation: you're not buying a home, you're buying a lifestyle that's 90% view and 10% structural integrity. But here's what nobody tells you. The tourism is relentless. The infrastructure is ancient, and the sheer volume of visitors creates a bottleneck that turns a 5-minute walk into a 20-minute ordeal. As one local posted, living in Port Isaac is 10% fishing, 90% explaining to tourists where the toilet is and why you can't park your massive SUV in a lane designed for a donkey. So, what's the real trade-off? You get the most stunning sunsets in the UK, but you might spend your summer weekends trapped inside because the streets are literally impassable. You're trading your privacy for a place in history. And don't even get me started on the hills. I swear, the only way to get around here is by rappelling gear. You walk down to the harbor for a pasty, and by the time you hike back up to your house, you've hit your step count for the next 3 weeks. I'm convinced the local gym business model is just exists in Port Isaac. Picture this. It's a hazy, golden evening. The tide is out, the harbor reeks of salted nets and fresh fish, and you hear the distant, melodic shouting of a local sea shanty group echoing off the stone walls. It's romantic, it's legendary, and it's arguably the most beautiful spot in the country. Just don't expect to find a parking space within 3 miles of your front door. Thanks for sticking with me through these 10 towns. Whether you're looking for a Gothic retirement or a seaside escape, just remember, the postcard never shows the parking, the Wi-Fi, or the seagulls. Which one are you moving to? Drop a comment. I'm dying to know who's actually brave enough to take the leap. Don't forget to hit that sub button if you want more of this real talk, and I'll see you in the next one.